Cedar Point, late 1970s. This park from humble beginnings a century prior, located in Sandusky, Ohio, now has its sights set on becoming the Disneyland of the Midwest. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of LIAMS Random Introspectives, and today we will be continuing my mini-series about the story of Cedar Point. Anyways, the first true steps in this direction were made by opening Corkscrew and the Gemini throughout the late 70s. However, Cedar Point was far from done. While some major additions, notably Ocean Motion and Demon Drop, were made in the early 1980s, I would instead like to jump to the middle of the decade, specifically 1985. Cedar Point would begin clearing land for a new attraction by moving the Ferris wheel and Wildcat to different areas of the park. The new attraction that would open in this area would be Avalanche Run. Avalanche Run was a family bobsled roller coaster that was manufactured by Intamin and opened on July 1st, 1985. Avalanche Run had a maximum height of 63 feet, followed by a 50-foot drop at a speed of 40 miles an hour. I will come back to Avalanche Run. Actually, you know what? Let's just cover this right now so we don't need to come back to it. I'm kind of talking off script here, so just bear with me. But Avalanche Run was around for a number of years until in whatchamacallit, 1989. Sorry, I'm kind of going off script here because this is something I definitely want to include. In 1989, Cedar Point announced that Avalanche Run would be refurbished into an indoor ride named Disaster Transport. Disaster Transport was a attempt to kind of clone the success that Disneyland had with the new Star Tours attraction. So Disaster Transport opened in 19. Oh, there was also an issue with So Avalanche Run was located on the beach, and sand would get in the track, so the ride would have to be shut down so they could clean the sand. Encasing it in an indoor building obviously solved the problem. So in 1990, they opened Disaster Transport. Disaster Transport was in a white building with a blue 12E written on the side of it. 12E stands for Eric, the person who designed the ride, and the 12th is supposed to represent the fact that it's the 12th ride that Eric designed. Anyways, the ride was designed by ITEC Inc. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, basically, just some things to know about Disaster Transport. It was air conditioned, but the roof would consistently leak, meaning Cedar Point's one indoor ride could not operate in the rain, which caused some guest anger. Also, the story of Disaster Transport was kind of hard to decipher, but what we can gather from old videos is that basically it is supposed to be a passenger space travel agency called Dispatch Master Transport, and basically things go wrong along the way, sending you on a thrilling ride through the galaxy. When the ride first opened, there were glowing effects such as planets and stars, but they were all turned off later into the ride's life. And finally, Disaster Transport just had diminishing interest until eventually most of its queue was used by Halloweekends, and in 2012 the ride closed to make way for Gatekeeper in 2013. Sorry, I was completely unprepared for that. Back on script now. That year also, so 1985, saw the opening of an indoor kids playground themed to the Berenstain Bears. 1986 saw a couple attractions, including Thunder Canyon, a whitewater rafting ride, and a couple of Kiddie Kingdom expansions. But the next notable expansions were the opening of the Iron Dragon in 1987 and Soak City, which is now known as Cedar Point Shores, the water park, in 1988. Another ride that was major that we will come back to later in another episode is the Mean Streak, which opened in 1991. Mean Streak was built by the Din Corporation, had a maximum height of 161 feet, a 52-degree drop, and a high speed of 65 miles an hour. However, later in the ride's life, trim brakes were added to the first drop, which slightly slowed the speed of the entire ride. Mean Streak ran 3 trains seating 28 people per train. Mean Streak was originally praised for its smoothness, but ironically over time became one of the most notorious wooden coasters in terms of roughness. 1993 saw the opening of Cedar Point's second major water ride, Snake River Falls. And from this point forward, nearly every year saw the opening of a new major roller coaster. So I'm just going to rapid fire the next ones. In May of 1994, Cedar Point opened Raptor, a steel inverted roller coaster manufactured by B&M. The ride has a height of 137 feet with a 119-foot drop and a top speed of 57 miles an hour. The ride has 6 inversions and was the first ever inverted roller coaster to feature a Cobra roll. Raptor runs 3 trains with 8 cars in each train, meaning in total each train seats 32 riders. The only notable incident to occur involving Raptor was in 2015, when a non-rider was struck by a moving train when he entered the ride area without permission to attempt to retrieve his cell phone. The ride reopened the next day. In 2024, I also dropped a set of car keys on Raptor, but we don't need to get into that right now. In 1996, Cedar Point spent $12 million on a new standing coaster named Mantis. It was designed once again by B&M and was the first ever ride to feature an inclined loop. When it opened, it was the tallest, fastest, and longest stand-up coaster until the aforementioned records were stolen by Green Lantern at Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom. We will return to Mantis later next episode. The last attraction we will cover in this episode opened in 1998 and is not a roller coaster. It is Power Tower. Power Tower is a drop ride designed by S&S Worldwide. It features 4 towers, all of which are 300 feet tall and offer 240-foot drops. 2 towers shoot the riders up fast, while the other 2 drop them fast. Each tower seats 16 riders, although many times the ride seems to be run under capacity. In 1999, Cedar Point would officially transition away from the Berenstain Bears and officially begin licensing the Peanuts. Well, guys, all that is left to cover is the quote-unquote modern attractions, which I'm considering to be Millennium and everything newer than that. And I have a lot to say about the newer attractions, so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 more episodes in this mini-series, and by the time those are done, I'll be back to uploading more content. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Liam's Random Introspectives.